The issue that the business had at the time was the quality of asset information being handed over to them. And it was affecting all elements of operational activities in the business. And the root cause of that issue was the data was inconsistent. The data was incomplete. The data wasn't sometimes wasn't relevant. It wasn't in the right format. There was non-standardization of the data being handed over. We saw non-standardization of asset information within a single project.
Information management, there's a huge misconception in the industry, and I agree with you. People tend to think about BIM as a model or modeling side, but there is 3 levels of that. There is a BIM building information model, where graphical, non-graphical, and documentation that is captured. But there's a modeling, a process to capture that, and there's a management part. So if they're missing these 2 things, the process and the management side, they are either doing over modeling or they're doing under modeling. Modeling, I mean, again, graphical, non-graphical, and documentation, meaning it could be just data as well. So if they're delivering unusable data or a data that is not relevant, it loses the whole point, and you actually limit the maximum potential of BIM. And that's very sad. And in fact, the idea is to get a maximum potential from the traditional workflows, which you can actually make it worse than the traditional workflow if you're just constantly capturing wrong data or following the wrong path.
That's exactly right. And that was my reason for being within the in the FM division. The issue that the business had at the time was the quality of asset information being handed over to them. And it was affecting all elements of operational activities in the business. And the root cause of that issue was the data was inconsistent. The data was incomplete. The data sometimes wasn't relevant. It wasn't in the right format. There was non-standardization of the data being handed over. We saw non-standardization of asset information within a single project. And so when I was brought into the business originally, my first remit was, Medina, because of your data analysis background, we are tasking you to analyze the asset information that's being captured to see where we can improve asset reliability. But when I did a review of the asset information being captured, I had to go back to the MD and say, actually, I can't do my job because I can't even do any basic comparisons within a single project, let alone comparing one project to another, because there was no consistency of the asset information. And that's the reason why we had to basically create a brand new asset information management platform. And I used the BIM framework to achieve that.
Okay, when you say platform, did you use some kind of software, or was it just solely like a bunch of combination of documentation and software and standardization?
Right, it was right back to basics in terms of defining a suite of new asset information standards, internal standards within the business. So that covered a standard format of the asset register with far more data fields that the FM teams were used to, and also far more data fields that the construction teams were used to completing and handing over. A standard way of categorizing the assets, a standard way of uniquely coding the assets, a standard way of uniquely tagging the assets out on site, and a few other things as well. And then we also had an issue within the business of, we have a core technology in the system, in the business called CAFM, Computer Aided Facilities Management. It's what's used to store the asset register that's handed over by the construction teams. It's used as a means of scheduling maintenance tasks for the engineers. And it's also used to capture help desk calls by occupants in a building to say, there's a problem with this room, it's either too hot or too cold. And that allows the maintenance engineers to go out and check. And if it's an asset related issue, that maintenance event can be linked right back to the asset. So that's our core technology that's used in FM operational activities. At the time, not only was there non-standardization of the asset information, there was also a non-standardization of the CAFM system. So we had about 10 different CAFM systems configured in different ways across the portfolio of projects, which again meant that I couldn't do my job because I couldn't do basic analytics because I couldn't compare apples with apples. And so the new asset information management platform not only included developing a suite of asset information standards, but it also included selecting a new core CAFM system, one CAFM system, rolled that out on all new projects, retrospectively deployed them on existing projects, but also implemented a standard configuration of that system so that it was aligned with the data standards that had been developed. That was the new asset information platform that was developed. Plus, you had all the new processes that went along with that, because it was a complete change to the way people were traditionally working.
If you like this video and more videos like this, subscribe to our channel because there will be many more. And don't forget to turn the notification bell on.